is the science of art? Is it the anthropological study of the human experience and the subjective byproduct we call art? Is it the act of constantly working to disprove your past work's finality by either consciously or unconsciously entering a perpetual flow state? Is it a study of the biochemical reactions that occur within the human body when an outside event evokes an electrical response strong enough to elicit a reaction that requires power output in some form? Or is it just learning any craft so well you don't even think when you do it? You're just a human being, well, human. The Science of Art is a show about the study and exploration of just that, of being human. How the body and mind work to experience our environment, how we perceive it, and what drives us to create the byproduct that we call art, a subjective viewpoint from another person's perspective outside of the creator. The outside subjective viewer sees this as art. The creator perceives it as a science. It will not stand for completion, obsessed with the ever-changing nature of their craft and their creation. But what does it mean? Why do we leave these things behind? To show us where we came from or where we are going? As we talk to artists and scientists alike, we will go into the world and take a closer look at where we come from and how we got here, study and analyze civilizations that have not changed since the dawn of our species, go into nature and interact with plants and wildlife and natural forces that sparked our evolution, and take a closer look at ancient art and how it has inspired our modern work today. Science is a process of completing the task. Art is the individual's twist. We are going to delve deep into the art of being human, explore each individual's use of that human potential and the incredible things we create, and what has driven us over the past years, not only as individuals, but also as a species, and the way it has shaped our culture. Now, mind you, this show is intended to grow and evolve as we journey into life and learn what makes us tick. Part of the show will take place here in the booth. Some of it will be filmed and follow the format of our previous episodes, but we aim to expand the show out into the field, taking you to sites and locations where we can experience humans living and creating in real time, observing the human animal in its natural habitat of creativity. Now, something I want to be clear about is we might be consistently inconsistent but consistent. What I mean is you can always expect to hear from us, but how you hear from us might be different each episode. This program will be brought to you no matter what, with the mission to entertain and to educate. We just finished building a new booth, which I'm excited about. This is our new think tank. This is just intended to be a free-flowing conversation space, or as I'm doing right now, a place to just cut loose when an idea needs to be let out of the confines of its cranial cage. Now, the video portion you guys are familiar with hasn't gone anywhere. It is simply going through its next metamorphosis. We love what we came up with. We're just refining some things and making some tweaks so we can bring it back bigger and better than before, which includes a new studio space we are currently working on. Evolution, baby. Gotta love it. Anyways, we plan on bringing the show back with a few improvements, including more space for some of our guests to even showcase some of their work in real time. So we're really looking forward to that and can't wait to show you some of the updates on that coming up. Now for the big enchilada, the field study. My plans with this field study portion of the show is, to my selfish nature and complete honesty, my excuse to keep exploring and seeing as much of the world as possible like there is no tomorrow. I just can't help myself. The world is too fucking cool. Anyways, I will go out and explore our world top to bottom in search of clues to help us figure out where we came from and where we are going and the byproduct of our experiences that we call art. I look forward to meeting and talking with people from all walks of life, including artists, chefs, hunters, archaeologists, physicians, fighters, and scientists, to delve deep into our environment, culture, and human potential. I kind of like to think that environment plus experience equals culture. Really, putting it as simply as I can, I'll just be getting out there, and a lot of times going to shows and events where I get to watch artists I've interviewed actually show off their craft, or getting a chance to join them in the studio where they work or rehearse. But my plan is to do more than that whenever I get the chance. As I stated before, some of this show is just us getting our thoughts out there, or sharing our knowledge and experience with one another. But what I'm about to break down is my process for these more in-depth field studies. Again, we're working up to this, but at least this breakdown will give you an insight into the process of how we explore our world. Look, I'll just be honest with you. I'm using this show as my outlet for traveling to new places and learning new things and meeting new people. I just don't want to keep it all to myself. I'm hungry for knowledge and experience, but I also have an insatiable appetite for sharing. So, in the process of going out into the world and learning more about us and who we are, have been, and are becoming, I've developed 7 things I will focus on with any place I visit. In more of these episodes, especially my later series titled A Healthy Guide to Unfucking Yourself, I will go a little bit more into my personal rule of 3-6-9 and my 7-10 structure. But we'll get into that. What follows is my breakdown for exploring any new place here on this planet. We can call it the Size of Art Adventure Challenge until we come up with something better than that. Maybe we could apply this to other planets and dimensions one day, but for now, let's just have fun and see how it works out here. So, I stay and I visit a place for a total of 10 days. I know, it is a really short time frame to really visit and explore any new place. But let's just call it a fun challenge to see how much new knowledge and skills you can accumulate in just 10 days. My goal is to learn, but I really want to share these experiences because there is such a wealth of useful and positively powerful knowledge that can be gained from all over the world that can help enrich your own life and personal experiences and expression. So day 1, arrive, settle in, meet the people, get the lay of the land, acclimate, soak it all in. The reason I give myself 10 days is, honestly, a week doesn't really cut it. You seriously need to dedicate a day to arrive and a day to leave. So day 2, plan of attack. Take a day to explore and see places and just cut loose, but then take a day to really plan now that you've settled in. This is a good time to figure out what your game plan is. Look at maps, talk to the locals you met the day before, and to really figure out what you were doing ahead of time, rather than panicking. It's also a great time to come up with any emergency backup plans. This would be part of the trip where, while I am planning my main trip, my teammates will be locking in reservations, planning backup interviews, helping me establish contact with any people I would be meeting during my visit. If I am alone and I am doing a solo trip, then this is a really good time for me to triple check everything, including my supplies, camera and audio gear, and any additional hardware needed for any expedition. Day 3 through 9. Following breakdown post day 10. We'll get into that. Day 10. Pack and farewell. It is always important to give yourself time to show appreciation and to say thank you to all the people who took time out of their schedules to help you on your journey to enhancing your education. This is also a good time for you spiritually to reflect on your experiences before beginning your journey home. So, with any new place I intend on visiting, I will always focus on these 7 things to get the best understanding of how our ancestors first survived and settled in some of the most stunning landscapes, but also some of the most incredibly dangerous and inhospitable places on Earth. Each of the 7 focuses are also split into 2 regions: rural, i.e. nature, and urban, i.e. culture. 1. Human survival. This includes immediate exposure, shelter, architecture, fire, water, language, nature. So, exposure to the elements. We're going out into the actual environment and living like the first people to settle there. We'll be taking a closer look at original observations of natural forces here and in the cosmos, how we used to use stars to explore. And culture. We're going to take a closer look at infrastructure, architecture, and how people conduct their daily lives today based on how our ancestors lived years and years ago. 2. Nature versus nurture. The first, art and its inspiration, the hunt and the fight. So with nature, we're going to explore the plants and animals and terrain, find some of the first artifacts and artwork, and try out some of these ancient techniques to create pieces of art from raw materials. And as we look at culture, We're going to go out and we're going to see modern artwork in that area and talk to the local artists about what, in nature and from their past, inspires their modern art today. We also take a look at how the area has incorporated plants and wildlife into their urban environment, and how conservation and coexistence is handled in today's human habitats. 3. Food. Hunting, fishing, agriculture, cooking. So with nature, we're going to hunt and fish and grow and cook like the ancient locals and see how many traditions have not changed in centuries. With culture, we're going to go into the urban environment. We're going to find everything from the best local chain to a unique, one-of-a-kind mom-and-pop place. We also talk to family-owned and operated restaurants that haven't changed their recipes for generations. And we talk to top modern chefs in the area who are inspired by the culinary arts of our ancestors and the flavors of the region they call home. 4. Martial arts, ritual and preparation, war and weapons in art. Nature. We're going to see how animals and nature influence martial arts. How do ancient teachings get passed down? Culture. We're going to attend local fights and tournaments to watch modern athletes perform ancient forms of combat, dance and ceremony, and where the practice comes from and what it means, and the modern combat entertainment for today's audience. So we're going to take a look at how that culture has adapted and evolved, and which things have changed and which things have gotten enhanced and which things have actually stayed completely the same. 5. Medicine. We're going to look at recovery science and healing practices from around the world. Nature. Ancient recovery and then how it works or how it doesn't. We're going to look at certain plants and natural compounds that are still used to this day to heal the body and the mind. And then with culture, we look at modern healthcare and well-being in that area. What can modern medicine tell us, and what is it not able to do yet that old methods still can? 6. Clothing. Garments and practical art. With nature, we're going to look at how we used to make the first clothing. Textiles and materials made from plants and wildlife, dyes and paints, and how jewelry was made from everything from bone to gems. With culture, we're going to look at modern clothes that are influenced by ancient textiles and trends, how fashion has evolved through enhanced materials, but still maintains the glamour of our past, showcased with awe and respect. And finally, 7. Last thing we're going to be looking at on these trips, music. Where does music come from, and how do we figure it out? We're also going to dip into live theater and live performances as well. But with nature, we're going to look at the first song. Instruments, influences in nature such as birds, beast, beach, or breeze, and the spectacle of live theater. Culture. We take a look at some of the most recent generation's greatest films and shows and performers of the area, along with the local hotspots for the best music scene. Whew! A lot to explore and unpack in a very short amount of time, I know. But I'm still excited to try this challenge out and get as much out of a visit as possible. Who knows when or if you will ever get a chance to ever return to a place in this lifetime. So having a good plan or strategy you can follow to get the best out of your experience is a really helpful tool to have in your life kit. That's why I'm really excited about this. We're going to be moving into this as we begin doing field studies. It's just a challenge. I also offer this as something that you guys can try out yourself. Be careful when you're doing it, obviously. What I would also advise is be smart. Go out with a guide. If you're doing this for the first time and you don't have a lot of experience with wildlife or nature or the elements, take some time, get appropriate training, or find a guide. This is vital to your survival, and furthering your education also means you're still here to learn. So use it, keep it, try it out, post in the comments what you think and anything that you have to share. So now I want to talk about health and wellness. This is also a show about how to human. The best way to human to get the kind of experience you want, but also being able to listen to your body when it is trying to tell you something about your environment, and how we each use the same tools to tell our own unique story based on how we perceive the world around us, each other, and most importantly, ourselves. Another thing we shall discuss in this show are some of the darker aspects of art and how it has impacted our mental health in both good and bad ways throughout history as we talk with both artists and scientists to understand what was the original impact that caused them to find this as an outlet for stress, how it has helped shape who they are, and what their work does that evokes an emotional response from certain groups of humans. What are we doing? Is there an end result to the emotional wave that spans across our existence? Are we collectively building one piece of art that makes us feel one universal emotion at the same time? And if so, what happens then? Art has a great importance to us all as a species. Its subjective nature holding value to each of us as individuals in a paradoxically unique and yet universal means of creating a shared experience, both conscious and unconscious, at the same time. That value is tribal. It is data to be passed down, information that stimulates movement, an increase in progress or a decline based on the natural ebb and flow of all things. The common link between all art? It moves you, causing a cacophony of chemical warfare taking place within our bodies, creating what we call the human experience, shared in silence across our biology, sometimes screaming in the quiet of our minds or shouted loudly through mouths agape, longing to be heard and understood for the pain they've just suffered and the insufferable biological drive of understanding it in some way or another. Art is a hand reaching out for another hand that understands a shared pain, that doesn't always have clear words, but always clear feeling and intent. Our goal on this show is to find better ways of communicating how we feel in clearer ways to get there faster. Wherever that is also part of the conversation. So where are we going? What are we doing? And the most important question we will be asking each other on this show a lot: why? How to human well is a great aspect of the show, but why to human is a bit of a puzzler. What is the value of humaning well? Over the course of our time together, we will look at tools and techniques that can help you get the best quality out of your own life and learn how a healthy you creates a healthy reality, and by proxy, builds a better world for those around you, human, plant, animal, you name it. Now, this doesn't mean you'll always have good days. This show is more about how to handle the bad ones and what you can do to better self-regulate and channel that energy into your chosen craft. Together, we will take a closer look at making healthy changes in our lives to help us lead a better life by understanding ourselves and what makes us tick. Art is something intended to be shared, but sometimes we can get so caught up in what our body is feeling, we become unaware of how our art can be both self-destructive and sometimes destroy the things in our lives that are truly important to us, the people we love. Art is an act of giving energy, but fall into a loop of pain and it can become toxic to your environment, as the output becomes less about turning that pain into something of value and more about getting it out no matter the consequence, which can lead to an addiction if left untreated. As Dr. Joe Dispenza puts it, to change is to think greater than how you feel. To change is to act greater than the familiar feelings of the memorized self. And if you don't have a chosen craft, these tools can help you find purpose in your own life. Each of us is a scientist, going through experiment after experiment trying to find out who we are. Each of us is an artist, adding their own creative spin on figuring out essentially all the same things as the scientist. The scientist is the observer, whereas the artist is the observed. Okay. Now that you know what the show is going to be about, let's get into this episode. So what is science and what is art? Science is the systematic study of the natural and physical world through observation, experimentation, and evidence-based analysis to build organized, testable knowledge, laws and theories, about how the universe works, encompassing both a process of discovery and the body of knowledge gained. It's a self-correcting method, relying on open data, replication, and changing conclusions when new evidence arises. Another definition is knowledge of any kind. Pretty broad definition, but consider what you need to do to acquire knowledge. You either gain experience through real-world experience in a practical sense, the toll being taken in real time on the physical body and then the mind responding, creating memory of the events that it then uses later, or by reading or analytical thought, the process now happening in the mind, the imagination going wild to the point where you see it so clearly in the mind's eye that the body feels it as if it has taken ownership of the experience, which took place in the vast world of the imagination. Either way, to us, the experience happened. We felt it, and now we have knowledge, a knowing, but it was only gained through some form of experience, either in the body first, and then in the mind, or in the mind first and then the body. Art is the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form such as a painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. Another definition: a skill at doing a specific thing, typically one acquired through practice. By this definition, which I actually prefer, everything we put intention behind and in turn become habitual in the act of is considered an art. The art of diplomacy can be seen as no different than the art of dance. Who is leading and in which direction? Are you skilled to the point where it's just talking, or are you tripping over yourself, your body reacting and coming out simply mirroring your panic state as your body begins to betray you when you needed it most? Each is a performance, practiced in private and played in front of our peers to be judged. The high comes from the danger of rejection, but the key to being both a good artist and a good scientist is simple. You just don't give a shit. You are so honed into what you are doing that you practically invite failure because the challenge gets you high. You keep coming back to this thing because it has become your drug, and eventually it becomes who you are, your identity, something so infused in your being that even your energy is tethered to it. It isn't the canvas or the dance floor or any material thing, but an intense vibration that never stops. It moves so fast to the outside observer, it is as if time stood still, but to the practitioner, once you've entered your flow state, time simply vanishes. And before you know it, the moment is over and you are driven to get to the next time you can get high again, the next fix, the next time you get to dance. Both the scientist and the artist obsess over the need for more knowledge, more experience. The artist in their field is merely a scientist, requiring more knowledge and conducting various experiments to test their theories. But to the outside observer, this person is so enamored by their craft that even the failed experiments are works of incredible art. The scientist in their field is merely an artist, tolling away with laser focus on their work, completely oblivious to the outside world. Actors, writers, filmmakers, storytellers of all kinds have marveled at the great minds of our time, watching in wonder as extraordinary feats of science and engineering propel us into the future, inspiring artists to create worlds with technology that haven't even been invented yet, life that hasn't been discovered yet, igniting the flame of ingenuity in the scientists of our world to ask, what if? What if I could make a lightsaber or a flying car? What if I could create a cure for an incurable disease? What if I could read minds? Life imitates art. What we build inspires art, and art inspires us to go beyond our own limitations. So what makes good science, and what makes good art? Well, good science requires study and practice and focus, keeping your attention within the present moment is to not miss any important information or data, paying attention to the little details. Good art is based on how freely the creator can be in that present moment without thinking, using feeling and intuition to create an outcome. Employing science while creating art is a process of using knowledge and skills to seek a different outcome through experimentation. Good science is never finished, as everything is in a constant state of change, and we are looking for repeats and experiments. The same goes for creating a piece of art. All this happens when we are able to feel safe enough in the present moment that we can surrender ourselves completely to it and therefore enter a flow state. Time and space outside of that moment cease to exist, and you begin to create and behave instinctively, as if you know everything that is coming. The best work comes not from a place of conscious control, but one of confident surrender, trusting in the present moment and everything the universe presents to you. From this place, the scientist is able to work freely, with clear vision and limitless ingenuity. And as they work, by tapping into this superpower, true art is produced, a labor of love and learning. So what is flow? Well, flow is a psychological state of deep focus, full immersion, and energized enjoyment in an activity where you lose track of time and self-consciousness, performing effortlessly at your peak. Stephen Kotler, writer and author of books like The Art of Impossible and The Rise of Superman, Decoding the Science of Ultimate Human Performance, describes flow state as being effortless effort. Every action or process can be considered an art form when the practitioner has entered a flow state and is unaware they are being observed. A good performance is usually dictated by the performer acting as if they are not being observed and are in a natural state of action. The better the performance of natural play, the better the performer is usually perceived to be. This can be observed in nature by animals and their behavior, and in particle physics through things like the double slit experiment. Natural talent to study, and practice to mastery, to simply being. I am that I am, for all that is happening now, past, present, and future. If all that is now, then I am now as I am which is now. On this show, we will be exploring flow a lot as we come across it in many forms in everyday life and how people can enter a flow state on command to accomplish their goals. The real fun comes from observing the human animal in its natural state of play, but with a skill that can take decades to master. A key component to remember about flow: the activity is enjoyable for its own sake, and the activity is difficult enough to be engaging, but not so hard it causes frustration. So, closing remarks? Yeah, we're there. If you are going to be a good artist, think like a scientist. And if you're going to be a good scientist, feel like an artist. Think like a scientist. Do the hard work and obsess not over being right, but over being wrong. An unsatisfied scientist is a good scientist because there always has to be more, and they won't stop working to disprove their own proven work because deep down they know nothing ever stops changing. It becomes like trying to catch lightning in a bottle. The thrill is in the chase of the impossible, and you actually hope you never catch it, because if you do, well, then you have nothing to chase, and the fun is over. So you work feverishly to continue to discover something to prove you're wrong. Keep failing so you always have a game to beat, a challenge to overcome, fun to be had. You never stop moving. So challenge yourself to think bigger. Ask hard questions that frustrate you, but study and learn and experiment and be open to failing big. Remember, failure is a dress rehearsal for success. And as an artist, once you gain success, remember to think like a scientist. Deny completion or finality and insist there is more. Be so driven you cannot stop and go out and make a bigger, better one. To think like a scientist is to be objective in your observation and to find as much excitement as when things go wrong as when things go right, and to always question why. But then feel like an artist. Use your darker emotions as fuel for your work, but don't lose yourself in your negative emotions so much that it simply becomes who you are all the time. Remember the joy of what you are doing and the craft you've chosen to commit this time to learning and practicing. Take pride in the work you have done, but be humble enough and thirsty enough to crave self-improvement. Love is not an act of taking, but one of giving. So cultivate your energy through clear intention, and you will be able to channel that energy into your work and by proxy your art. People will feel it when they look, touch, taste, smell, or listen to your finished work. When you see a painting, you can feel the loss, the pain, the anguish that went into the work. But that means that it was used wisely and with intent. Rather than that pain going into the world and causing chaos, it can be channeled with clear purpose and intentions into the work you do, so it can be the ambassador for your imagination and speak clearly to those you wish to connect with. So as a scientist, feel like an artist. Take pride in your work and the finished product, and allow your emotions to help guide you through your process. Listen to them and learn how to use them to work for you rather than against you. Another little thing to remember, just kind of the same thing with any science experiment. With art, it's never finished. It's just released. So, what is the science of art? Haven't a clue. But that just means we have a lot to explore. As we close out on this episode, I'd like you to think of me moving forward as simply an entity who has never humaned before, and I've just arrived and I'm interested in learning how to human. In the short time I have been here, I've come to the conclusion that nobody actually knows how to human, and half are making it up as they go, and the other half only pretend they know what is going on, but they're just following the people doing their best. So, I've also discovered this thing called art, which also seems to be something nobody can seem to agree on, but it's there. Humans make it, and I want to know how and why. So, as an alien traveling the cosmos looking for a good time, I'm simply an interstellar blogger that inhabits the body of the primary sentient life form on any particular planet, and then I learn how to have the best experience using that body, and then I can enjoy my shared experience better with all of you, my fellow humans. So, as I explore this big, beautiful planet called Earth and its wonderful inhabitants, I'll share my findings with you as people share their own life journeys with me. What the hell is art, and why do living things keep on making it? How do you make it and why? And what is art's purpose in nature? Seriously, as living biological organisms, what are we doing? Like, all these delicious, tasty questions that need answering. So, wherever you are on the planet or in the universe, thanks for tuning in. Keep creating and vibe high. We'll see you next time.